Welcome to the BDC podcast. Today, you guys, I have a treat because this is one of our live coaching audits. So if you're new to my world, one time a month we bring on an amazing listener from the show and we do live coaching together. So this is an application-based process. If you are interested in stepping into Renee's seat in just a moment and getting to do exactly what Renee is about to do, I'd love to have you. So you can head on over to amanda-walker.com/free coaching, fill out the application. We have room for one guest a month. So it is a sought after spot. And you and I will coach on, whatever you're struggling with. So I just want to commend you for showing up and being willing to be coached and allowing really everybody listening to also learn from this. So thank you for being with me today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Perfect. So let's do some context work. I would love for you to share with me and with the audience who it is that you coach. I know you recently made a transition, so feel free to kind of share that. But give us some insight into your business up to this point.
Okay, great. Yeah, I did. I just transitioned from kind of your generic life coach and relationship coaching to really doing more personal and professional development coaching. So my ideal client is high performing, highly motivated leader, entrepreneur who still feels like something's missing. There's the external world would say, "Oh, that person's doing great. They're very successful," but inside they feel a void. And so I'm coaching them to try to align their personal and professional lives to their values, so that they feel that meaningful fulfillment.
Okay. Okay, cool. I have one question and then we'll get to your actual questions. What for you brought about this transition into ideal clients and different target audience?
I think it was just when I jumped into coaching, I thought, well, I have a lot to say about parenting, and I write a lot about parenting because I'm in the middle of it. I have a 10-year-old and a 7-year-old. I wrote a lot at the time about marriage, and so I felt like maybe that's just what I was supposed to coach on. But then when I started doing it, I really realized that that wasn't really where my passion was around coaching. And that I had been in the corporate world for over 20 years and made many changes in my life to align my job with what fit with my lifestyle at the time and the values that I had. And so I
Mm.
realized that that's really what I wanted to help people do, is navigate those worlds. And that's really what I was passionate about. So that's why I made that shift.
Cool. So I want to point out something. The reason I asked this question was for purpose, but
Okay.
I want to point out something for everyone listening is I think there is often pressure to find and establish your niche right away because the world is telling you the riches are in the niches and figure out, right? And I think there is validity to that. If you have that clarity, some people jump right into it and know exactly what they're going to serve. But I liken this to being an 18-year-old going to college and the world is saying, pick what you want to do for the rest of your life as an 18-year-old hormone ridden child. And
Right.
so you guys know if you can go back and I'll even link the episode, but I always say your niche does find you. And so
Mm.
I love going out and coaching in the beginning. You can stay in more of that gen pop, more, even if you're a health coach, stay high level health. If you're a financial coach, stay high level health, life coaching, whatever it is don't be afraid to just start from that place and then start getting experience. And then where you start to see your heart and pathway going, then those are the times to maybe start thinking about, all right, my messaging's getting clear. Maybe this is the time where I'm going to lock in and I've coached these people enough. Now I know this is what I want to do. I'm going to build my website accordingly. I'm going to do all of these things and invest money in the right places. And I do think that this is a struggling point for so many is we want to have this all locked in and perfect. And don't spend the money on a website and branding images and all that stuff until you have, in my opinion, been coaching some people to know where you actually want to take it because I'm such a fan of making money while you grow the business and not waiting to have it perfect before you go. So just
Yeah,
a little soapbox moment.
I totally agree. That
Okay.
is so
Okay.
good.
All right. So I digress. So when you submitted your question, what you really were asking, I'm just going to kind of read what you shared. And she said, with these pivots, right, moving away from this more general population life coaching to this more personal and professional development world, obviously the ideal avatar has shifted. And so you've lost kind of that client base that you had had been serving. And now it seems as though you said, I get people on a breakthrough call, but they're not financially in a position to hire me as a coach. And so you would love to walk away today with some clarity on how to message around, like improve the messaging on that signature program and target that ideal client more specifically. So do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think that that pretty much summarizes it. It was a big shift. I resigned from my corporate job of 18 years last year to do this full time. So it was a big
Woohoo.
leap. It was scary. It was exciting. But then at the same time, I did a big pivot. And so, like what you said, most of my client base kind of fell away because I'm starting to serve different people. So it almost feels like I'm starting from square one. I know that's not true because I know I'm bringing all of my growth and everything I've learned to this point, but it does feel a little bit like starting over. And so I'm trying to figure out how to tailor my message appropriately and get the right people in the door.
Okay, cool. I think there's two conversations that we could have today. One is that client acquisition. How do I find my people? But something you submitted in that form also stuck out to me, which was, but they're not financially in a position to hire me as their coach. I want to talk about that too, because I don't think that's a fact. I think there's some work that can be done around the selling system and the conversation around sales, because every single one of us is going to have the money objection as primary. So I'd love to dig into that too, if that's okay for you.
Yep.
So let's talk client leads. So what are you currently doing to get more of the right person into your audience?
Okay, so this is kind of tricky because I kind of put a pause on a lot of what I was doing since I decided to do the pivot. Because the pivot included creating a new signature program, and I'm working on a signature webinar, and I'm redoing my website, but none of that has rolled out yet. So it's almost like I don't know how much I can put out there yet because I don't have a lot. I don't have people. I can't drive them anywhere yet because it's not ready. Um, that's not true about the signature program. The signature program is ready to go. So what I have done with that is mostly post on LinkedIn. I've done some stuff on Instagram, like stories and stuff, Facebook stories. I've sent emails
Mhm.
to my email list. I think I have about 170 people on my email list. I've sent to previous clients and current clients, to invite them into this new program. Um, so that's what I've done so far, and I brought in a couple of people, but definitely not seeing the growth that I would like to see at this point.
Okay. And those people that you did bring in, where specifically did they come from?
They One of them came from LinkedIn, and one of them came from a therapist who I know that knows that I'm doing this program.
Okay. Excellent. And so I think there's like some opportunity here to massage that mindset, right?
Okay.
Because it's kind of like I think about, I remember sitting at my kitchen counter building my first website because I did my first website solo. I used YouTube videos and I built it all out. And then I was so freaking nervous to hit publish. And I know it was my husband and then one of our good friends with us, and they're like, just hit the button. Like, nobody's going to show up at your website. And I was like, what? And I hit publish, and then literally nobody came to my website. Right. And I didn't realize the amount of energy it was going to take to even get somebody to land on my website.
Right.
And so this is that whole like kind of tough love truth element of not just you, but so many people want to have this clearly, beautifully messaged, perfectly built website, and then nobody goes to it. It takes a tremendous amount of effort to get someone to opt in to even visit a landing page. And so we wait and wait and wait for that to be perfect. And what you're missing out on is on income in other imperfect ways to grow that. And
Right.
so same thing with the signature, workshop. I'm thinking like, I don't like it took me a year to figure out my signature workshop. And that's because I hosted like 50 other workshops and titles and played with it. And so I think an opportunity you have is to like take that little bit of perfectionism that once it's super dialed in and let that go and just say, I'm gonna try it. You know what? While this stuff's all being built, I'm gonna host a free workshop and I'm gonna let them sign up on Zoom. It doesn't have to be a fancy landing page. Use the registration required. I'm going to grow my email list with the right people people. And if I can host 2 workshops before my signature workshop is dialed in or before my website's ready, then I could have grown my email list by 100 people and have 100 warm clients.
Right. Yes.
How does that feel like for you?
That resonates with me. It's so funny. I spend so much time coaching people through their perfectionism, right? But then when it comes to me, I get stuck in it, and I know I do. I can feel it. And so, my husband ends up being kind of coaching me at the dinner table around letting it go, and it being good enough and moving forward. So that really does resonate with me. Even yesterday, I got stuck, started my webinars. I was trying to put some slides together, and I got stuck in the aesthetics. I wasn't even creating the content. I was like playing with the colors and trying to make it my brand colors, and I'm thinking, this isn't what really matters. Why am I doing this to myself? So I do. I hear you, and
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely what I need to do. I need to let go of that and get the content out and move forward, and stop worrying about everything being exactly perfect.
I mean, your ability to fail faster is going to create more rapid success.
Mm,
What I find is that a lot of coaches get hung up on the failure part, their perceived failures. I don't even want to say it's failing, but like
yeah.
the messiness of the allowance of messy action to happen is what stops. I think a lot of wonderful coaches leave the industry because they're afraid of that self judgment or external judgment that doesn't exist, or because they're so trapped in like they want to have their ish all figured out, so they're afraid to not look like the perfectly sugar coated expert. So I say, if you're putting yourself in a position on a webinar, and I'm not suggesting, Renee, that this is you, but I do see this happen, where you're unsure of your ideas and if they're going to be well respected, then you're probably trying to talk beyond your scope of professional service.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So just lean
Yeah.
on what you know, your methodologies, your experience, and it's transitioning from that how-to content that everybody else is talking about to the how I, Renee, teach my people, or specifically, what's cultivated success for you in leadership and development, because that's the story we want to hear, because you're going to attract tons of other Renees who are perfectionists, who are afraid to fail, who are afraid to show these parts of themselves that would be misconstrued as imperfect. And so we want to talk about that. This is actually your hurdle and how to overcome it so that you do attract the right person that you can serve to the highest capacity.
Right. Yep.
So I love the fact that you're already headed towards a workshop, because one of the gaps that I often see is our coaches are wanting to leverage what I would say top of the funnel content, the free opportunities, and jump them right into an offering. So that's like posting on social media. And then they're like, why aren't people buying my offers? I'm posting on social. And that's because they don't have an opportunity to trust you, to know and build rapport with you. And that's done in more intimate environments, which are workshops are one of them. And so I am all day cheerleading you to go out, but I'm going to do a workshop, but I'm going to challenge you to like just let it be messy. Do you want to know something that I do is when I'm building my workshops, my slides are white. I don't know if you've ever attended I think you've been in my workshops.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
student of the FBL, but like all of my workshop slides are pretty much white. And then I just put copy on top of them. It's clean. I like the look of it. And then over time, I sprinkle them in so that I'm never focused on the aesthetics. I'm actually focused on what's more important, and that's the content that I'm about to deliver.
Right. Right.
So that's just one hack to challenge your mind of not getting stuck on that, and coming through. So questions about the workshop perfectionism. I mean, I think you're headed in the right. Do you feel good about finding how to figure out what content to or what to title your workshop or create the main idea around?
I think, I've been working on that too. And again, I get stuck in this as well, like the perfectionism and, analysis paralysis, where I come up with a title and then I get some feedback and all the feedback's different. So then I'm like, okay, well, that title didn't work for everyone. So maybe I should do a different title. And so I find myself running in circles. And again, here I am worried about the title, and I haven't even created the content that's going to give my clients, the value that I want to give them. Right. So I'm really, that I find myself on that, I'm spinning there a lot of times. I know that I want to give a free webinar around how to create a rewarding career and a joyful life where they can work together instead of against each other, your work life and your home life. So, I've have all these different titles about work-life well-being, creating a rewarding career and a joyful life, or fulfillment formula, 3 steps to, those sorts of things. But I think that I might be focusing on that a little too much, and I just need to like do a brain dump. How did I do this in my own life? What did it look like to create a career and a personal life that really aligned with my core values? And how much value did that give me? How much fulfillment did I feel as I figured out how to do that? And I think that's what I need to be creating for people.
Yeah. I would offer a little of feedback. I think you're on the right track for sure. And I think it's less about sometimes our ideal audience and it's more about asking ourselves, how would they say it? So I think
Mm-hmm.
of, if I'm stuck, I'm not going to be, if I'm your ideal client, we're sitting at a coffee shop, I'm not going to say, oh, Renee, I'm just struggling to find out fulfillment in a rewarding life and a fulfilling career. Like, I'm going to say, I hate my life and my job sucks.
Yeah.
Right? That's really what's gonna come out of my mouth, right? It's
Right.
not like, so sometimes we wanna make it sound better because we think that's gonna draw them in, but really it's like we wanna speak English to their English. So
Yeah.
I would offer your homework around being like, how would my ideal client say it? And is that a really bad topic? Or is it just like how to stop letting your job suck the life out of you?
Yeah.
Right? 3 ways to stop letting your job suck the life out of you. And then on the inside, give them like, what they need around that. Like it's not hitting your job is out of alignment of your core values. You're doing a job that actually isn't aligned for who you are as a person, right? I don't know your content, but in
Yeah.
that direction. So I would go again, this is a chronic problem we all struggle with. I think this is a lifelong skill you learn as entrepreneur is how do we back it out and just speak the language and title things the way our ideal client would actually say it? Because
Yeah.
then our ideal client, again, Marie Forleo's statement is, a confused mind says no, because
Mm.
then they hear the word fulfillment and they're like, well, but I feel fulfilled, I think. Like, is this for me? Like, what does fulfillment mean? Right. And now they're like, I'm uninterested. Right. So we
Yeah.
want to try to be potent and in their language. So that's where I think that's a higher level question to be asking yourself rather than, is this the right thing? It's, how do I say it the way my client would say it?
Right. Right.
And you can use AI for that too. I mean, that's a great,
Yeah.
if you start playing with some of those titles, you can kind of see where. But I love your 3 steps. Great way to like make it actionable and pull away tangibility from that. So I think stay along, those lines as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So then let's keep diving into this conversation of where do I find my people? Because I think there's a secondary piece to that. And that is, inside the BDC, we have this mantra constantly and is go to where you are not known.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think your second piece of homework is to brainstorm, go to where you are not known. Where are you not known as an expert that has your ideal clients?
Yeah.
And go grassroots and introduce yourself like a mad woman. And so if you already knew you got a referral from a therapist, that's why I asked you that question, is can you create a partnership with that therapist? Are there more therapists and practitioners that are a great partnership? Where I think therapies would be a great partnership for you, because we're going in, possibly to get therapy, to work on our past self, but through coaching, you're really working on your future self. And so I
Exactly.
think there's a lot of power partnership that you might find in building that with therapists. So I would start thinking, or physicians, right? Same thing. Like physicians are having those same conversations, and therapy isn't always accepted or welcomed by some people. And so this would be kind of that grassroots attempt.
Right.
Anybody listening to this right now, this should be the conversation that rolls through your head. Who can I go introduce myself? Even if it's one off networking conversations where you go to networking events and you introduce yourself, you want to start positioning yourself inside of new communities to extend that network as the expert in this space.
Yeah. No, that I really have tried to make that a new goal this year. I started going to like Chamber of Commerce events, in different cities around me to just start to get out there, get to know small business owners and entrepreneurs. And I can see like already some connections and relationships that are being forged where I think we may be able to serve one another. And so I think, that's just one, that's one idea I've had. And I think you're right, like brainstorming, because there's so many other places I could show up, so many other organizations where I could make myself known. And I just need to take some time to do that brainstorming and then put myself out there.
Yes, yeah. We talk inside the BDC of the V squared method. So if we want to grow our reach and get new people into our world, squared stands for value and visibility. So we need to have a value strategy in your business, which is you delivering webinars, a way to bring free content and build trust with your audience, and also a visibility strategy. Whether that's you going and pitching yourself to therapists or podcasts or groups or networking communities, is we want to simultaneously have both of those things operating inside of our business and do them both well, right? So like
Yeah.
for me, those are the highest leverage action pieces, especially when we're built in a building phase where we want more clients, where we want to spend time each week doing that. For me, that is way more important than I know you just went through, like you've done all the website work, and I think it's lovely and it's great because you have clarity now. But for me, if somebody out there is listening that doesn't have a website, hands down, I would spend my time on those two things before I spent money and time building a website, because
Yeah.
those are going to actually create income, where a website build out isn't actually a revenue generating task. It's great, it's important eventually, but I think sometimes what is common isn't necessarily right. I know plenty of people that build multi six figure businesses and have a landing page. So it's important to really think about like what's the end goal and where can I create the greatest value inside of my business to support my goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And even when I think about how I built my business before resigning from my corporate job, it was doing workshops. I did parenting workshops at an equine therapy place here locally with, one of my friends owns one. And so we partnered and, I got to do the workshop with the parents and the kids got to go off and have, time with the horses. And so that's how I built almost my entire business, besides a few through Psychology Today, because I'm a social worker as well, so I can post on there. But most of it was just face to face contact, getting to know people, and then working with them, I realized they weren't even coming to me for parenting coaching so much as they were personal and professional development. So, like you said, they
That's
found
it. Yeah.
me, even though I thought I
Yeah.
was going to be doing something so different.
I mean, that's the core, really.
Yeah.
Whether it's they're coming to you for business, they're coming to you for a relationship, they're coming for you for health. I mean, at the core, all of our clients are searching for the same thing: confidence, consistency, and worthiness. The vehicle just looks different in the niche,
Right.
I believe that's my belief. We end up all coaching on very similar things for sure.
Yeah.
There's one last area I would love to touch on, and that is I get people on the breakthrough call, but they're not financially in a position to hire me as a coach. And I think that this is a slippery slope, and it's worth talking about as a collective on the podcast. And what I want to say, one thing about sales calls in general, is how we position the sales call is really important. There are some schools of thought that suggest that you call your sales call a breakthrough call or a free coaching call. That is not, and this is just food for thought. I want you to sit with this. It's been my experience, and I'm going to use a really big, tangible example, that when we call the sales call something than other than what it is actually meant to be, is that the client readiness to invest on the other end tends to be very low. Give an
Mm-hmm.
example. I had private clients who I worked with who are two physicians, and they coached on burnout. They would host these awesome summits, and at the end of the summit, the call to action, before they started working with me, they on our first session, they shared we had like 60 calls booked and we only had three clients convert. And I said, tell me more about those calls. And they said, well, after the summit, we opened up for free coaching. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, red flag. Psychology is I've just been through this summit, everything is free. Now I go in, there's free coaching. So these people are coming in with free coaching in mind. So
Mm-hmm.
then at the end of the call or through the call, when an offer is positioned, they're not like expecting an offer, they're expecting free coaching. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how you specifically preface this, but I find this happens so often. Is if you call it a breakthrough call or strategy call or free coaching or whatever, the same is happening. So they're coming in, they're expecting you to help them with a breakthrough. And when you're not in the business world, you're totally blindsided by the fact that there's an investment. And depending upon the pricing of that investment, there's definitely a low level of readiness. And so for this particular client, we didn't change anything. They repeated the same summit. The only change we made was we called that a sales call.
Oh,
So this
wow.
is a next level call. So we changed the title. They had far less calls booked, but they converted at 70%. So it
Mm,
was like they went from like, I don't know, 50 calls booked to like 25 or 30, but 70% of them, they like 10x the amount of clients they drew from that summit this time, all by changing the positioning of the call. So it
yeah.
does matter. So I don't know how you're prefacing it, if that even is relevant. Um, or if you call it a discovery to like work together call, even a discovery call is better than a breakthrough call because
Yeah.
discovery presupposes we're going to look and see if we're a good fit.
Mm,
So I don't know. How does that land for you?
I mean, that is definitely something that I had never considered, but it also makes a lot of sense. I had been calling them discovery calls. I think in my copy for my new website, it's all vision clarity calls. Um, but I think this gives me something to consider because I do want people who are serious about wanting transformation and who are ready to take the next step and level up. And so I don't want anyone to come in and then just be, surprised. But I can see how it would feel that way when it's presented as this, free vision clarity call. They're going to get all they need and then go on their way. And then I'm trying to bring them into my signature program at the end of the call. I could see how that would be, kind of, it would shock their system a bit. So that's
Yeah,
really
it's a little bit
interesting.
of
I need to think about that.
Yeah, it's a little bit of bait and switch. It happens more often. And I think also just the statement they're not financially in a position to hire me as a coach. I could really, I'm pretty passionate about this because like we want to be careful not to project our money and like we're presupposing that they're not ready or and I also have questions about the sales call in general. Are you pre-framing the sales call that there's an offer coming? There's so many things that we could look at more deeply here other than just saying they're not ready to invest in me. Because what that says is, I mean, in general, we're all going to have our number one objection is going to be investment,
Mm-hmm.
right? But
Mm-hmm.
you and I both know that if they were confident that your solution would solve their problem, then they'd be like, here's my $10,000. So
Mm-hmm.
typically, what that does convey is we haven't built enough rapport and trust yet with them, or we just haven't presented on the sales call enough authority or effectiveness or social proof of our offer. And so that's where I really think you have opportunity to grow. And I wouldn't like put those clients out. You might have like, an opportunity to go back and do like a lower tier offer with them. But I do see a lot of coaches be like, oh, no, like, they don't just have the money. I'm like, no, no, no. When I was at the bottom of when I was in $50,000 of debt, you guys, guess what I did? I invested money in a coach to get me out of debt because
Mm-hmm.
I knew that I needed the help and support and that I couldn't do it alone.
Yeah.
And so we want to be very careful around like just making those assumptions and instead hold a mirror to ourselves on the opportunities to really tighten up our sales process.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and it even goes hand in hand with a podcast I heard of you, where you were talking about the sales call, and I actually made note of it when you said when you get on a call with them, let them know how it's going to go right up front, and letting them know that, and then at the end we'll talk about the offers. I don't know exactly how you said it, but I had not heard it put that way before, and it made a lot of sense to me to just take the anxiety out of it for them
Totally.
and for me. Just be very transparent up front. This is what we're going to talk about, and at the end I'm gonna tell you about the packages that I have. And so I made note of that so I could start practicing that in my call. So thank you.
Yes, hands down. Hands down. I mean, as should be on every sales call. It puts the whole conversation in integrity for both you and the potential client. There's no surprises and they feel like good about it. And what
Yeah.
you get them in the habit of doing through the call is saying, "Yes, sell to me. Yes, I'm here for it. Yes, I know there's money coming at the end." And then we feel good about saying a dollar amount.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's been a struggle for me. I blame it on being a social worker that sales does not come naturally. It's like the most uncomfortable thing I could possibly imagine doing. Um, but it's probably more about just my natural temperament than anything else. And so that is something I'm really going to have to grow in, to regrow my business. I mean, I've got to lean into that and get comfortable with those conversations.
Totally agree. I mean, you're not alone. I was a teacher, so I mean, I
Right.
never sold a dang thing. Worked minimum wage, so servant job. I mean, it is, but you have to reframe that to be and it's to service of the client too. So it's
Yeah.
not just about you. It's just getting comfortable and practice and lots of repetitions. Even if it's role play, we do role play in our community a lot, just so we can get more comfortable with having those conversations and um, working smarter and not harder. Right?
Right.
That's a huge piece. If we already are getting leads, but they're not converting, then we're doing something good. Now we just want to zip up the sales process as a whole.
Right.
I love it. Oh, Renee, this was so good. Do you feel like you've got some things to work on?
Oh yes, yes. I've got a lot of value out of this, and so much of what you said, I think, was exactly what I needed to hear and when I needed to hear it. So I appreciate you so much. Thank you.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm so grateful that you joined. And again, if you want to be in the seat that Renee is in, I'd love to have you. Head on over to amanda-walker.com/free coaching. You can fill out the application. We do hand select one person per month for recording. And if you loved, like, cheer Renee on, she's brave to be here. But I would love and appreciate if you would tell me how these episodes are hitting home for you on Instagram, send me a message, or even better would be to leave a review about these episodes so that I know they're really landing for you guys. So, again, thanks, Renee, for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. And we will jump in with you guys next week. And until then, keep coaching them up.